What up, Puck Squad? Coming at you with the King of Massachusetts match play bracket semifinals between Dylan Capaccioli and Sam Henderson. Dylan is coming in at 992 rated from Halifax, Massachusetts, whereas Sam is coming in at 988 rated from Norton, Massachusetts. Dylan's kind of the young gun on the scene, Sam is the seasoned vet, and both of these guys really wanted this win out here today. We are at Borderland on the blue to white layout on just an absolutely gorgeous fall afternoon, and I was lucky to have work at night this evening, so I was able to get out here and film this match between these two guys. It was pretty competitive, it was pretty quiet to start. I really didn't want to say much, I just wanted to let the competitors kind of do their thing to start. But here we have Sam, he's a lefty, and I'm not sure what he's throwing there, but I'm going to guess it's probably like a Saint or some sort of ballista. Nice and straight all the way down there. This hole is a par 3, 445 feet, and it finishes down to the left, probably about maybe our 11, 10 o'clock. Here's Dylan throwing his backhand. Kind of lose the disc a little bit there on the left side, but does get a little sneaky up the left gap. Didn't really pure it, but still got himself up there. Here he is from about, I don't know, 70 or 80 out, kind of just laying up, taking his 3, moving on from the first hole. And Sam actually got pin high, and he has a pretty wide open look at this one, probably from about the same distance, 70 or 80. Just missed it left, but he gave it a lot of steam and really gave that a good run. And there's Sam from about 15 feet for his tap in 3. And Dylan will do just the same thing and tap in his 3. So no movement on the first hole, just a nice push between these two guys. But I could tell that they were both a little bit nervy, and it was quiet, and they just both really were, you know, focused and competitive, and they both wanted to win. Here we are at hole 2, and as you can see, that gap is so tough to hit because those two trees in the middle just are calling your name the whole time. So on this hole, you really just want to hit the gap with either a left-hand backhand like you saw Sam hit, or like you're seeing Dylan throw here, a nice, hard righty forehand. Both of those shots were great. Both hit the gap. Really no chance of hitting that center tree. And just look at how beautiful of a day it was. I think it was like low 60s, high 50s, just beautiful fall afternoon here in New England. And there's Sam, and he's obviously putting first. That means he's out, and he's only putting from about 15 feet. And this hole is coming in at 400 feet on a really hard dogleg to the right. So throwing 400 feet on a hyzer is, you know, no easy feat, and both of these guys just put it to 15 feet, routine tap-ins for birds. That's a great push with birdies on that hole. Walking up to hole 3. This hole plays uphill, and it's 325 feet, but honestly, this hole plays more like a 380, 400-foot shot. It is a full shot with a driver for most of us, and there's a couple different ways that you can go. You're going to see Sam take the more traditional route, which is up the left side here. Flip it up just slightly, let it ride the whole way up. You can see the basket there, right to the right of Sam's head, and it does finish up on another little hill, so this hole plays uphill the entire time. Here's Dylan leaning to his forehand, and it leaks a little bit early on him, maybe threw a little bit more stable than he wanted, or didn't turn it as much as he wanted, but still fought all the way through there, and you can see he's here, probably about, 60 feet pin high to the right. Just leaves it over the top. Here we have Sam, looking at a straight uphill putt, nothing at all in his way. Dylan had a few obstacles. Sam's probably putting here from about circle's edge, 30 feet, a little uphill. Cashes the putt. So that is a great birdie to get for Sam and to take a point on Dylan there. Sam just got a birdie on the last one, and they both did, and they pushed. So Sam is now 2 down through 3, which is just a great start on this layout. Hole 4, par 3, 330 feet. Every single hole that you're about to see on this blue to white layout is a par 3, so there are no par 4s or par 5s. And actually some really sad news about this hole. Those 2 guardian trees that you see in the direct center of the fairway that, Dylan and Sam are both trying to hit that gap, both of those big trees came down in a recent windstorm a couple days ago. And it's going to truly change this hole because you really just want to hit that gap hard, especially if you're going to the blue, which is to the left on a big backhand hyzer shot. And for someone who's played Borderland for over a decade now, it's just really sad whenever you see guardian trees come down, whether it's to, natural reasons or just to course maintenance. That putt from Dylan was actually about 60 or 70 feet, and the angle that I was sat at behind the basket made it look a little bit shorter, and he got a brutal roll all the way to the bottom of the hill. coming back up for his 3 just off the top of the basket. And here we have Sam laying for his 2. And so that's a no-brainer for anyone who's played match play. You know, you're playing for a point, you're not playing for strokes. So Sam just laid up for his point, and there was no way that Dylan could have taken that point there. Sam is now 2 up through 4 holes. Hole 5, one of my favorite holes at Borderland. Nice little downhill shot, slightly downhill, 380 feet. And you can see Sam just pulled that one a little bit left, maybe a slight grip lock, and he is visibly frustrated by that. This is not really that hard of a tee shot to hit, but those trees on the left there do come up pretty quickly if you have an early release. More common to see what Dylan just did there and kind of hyzer out early and hit that middle section of trees. Not too many people hit that early left section, so I can totally understand Sam's frustration there. This was pretty funny. I was just following them on a little B-roll shot, and Dylan snaps off a branch of the tree and turns it into a little slingshot to hit back at me. Always acting silly out there. This lie is actually really tough. Sam is probably a good, I don't know, 300, maybe like 280 out of the pin with a lot of trees in the way, and he just throws an amazing shot up the left side there. Beats everything, most likely with like a fairway or maybe a mid, but that was a really, really technical shot to, get up there in hopes to save par. Here we have Dylan. He did kick that center tree and kick straight down, and he's just jump putting from like over 100 feet, just trying to get himself up there once again for another easy par. And these should be pretty routine tap-ins for these guys. Not too much movement on this hole. Sam taps in for his 3, Dylan taps in for his 3, and move on to the next one. Hole 5 is one of my favorite, honestly, when you hit that gap and you see the disc just fly the whole way. It's such a good hole. Hole 6 plays as 340 feet as a super hard dogleg to the left. Honestly, this is like a lefty's worst nightmares, this hole. And Sam just absolutely butters that shot. That was so clean and so good. Dylan's going to try to replicate that line with a turnover forehand. I have seen him throw this line really well. And if you hit the gap right, the forehand kind of fights out and continues to push left. And it's a really good line, but this is just a really hard hole to even get yourself up there for a look at the bird. Here's Sam from probably about 90 to 100 out, probably more like 100, just leaves it a little bit high. Same thing with Dylan, probably about 100 out. Once again, similar to the last hole, just kind of jump putting, but you can see the disc gets a little bit squirrely there, and it does stand up and roll a little bit to the left. So Dylan's now down 2 with a tester putt from just inside circle, maybe just at the circle's edge, and this is a really big putt right here. And Dylan just absolutely jams it right into the center pole, so no doubt there. Would have been tough to swallow that miss because it kind of just leaked away on him, and if he had missed that putt, Sam would have been up 3 through 6, which is just a huge lead to start with. And just look how beautiful these colors are here at Borderland. It was just such a nice day. I kind of set myself up at the apex here. Hole 7 is 545 feet, so kind of on the brink of being able to be a par 4. You don't really see many 2s on this hole, so having it be a par 3 is just a really challenging par 3. And Sam just kind of played the easy lefty line up to the middle of the gap. Dylan absolutely unloads a shot here, and I actually had to turn all the way around, and it just got a beautiful forward skip.
My God.
And you can hear me even in live time. I have actually never seen a drive land that far.
Foot shot on
like I said, this is a 545 foot hole, and like you just heard in the commentary there, Dylan never even flipped that disc over. He straight up hyzer flipped it to flat through the gap. And that was a 500-foot shot on hyzer, which is just so impressive, especially for someone like me who's played this hole many times, and I know how hard it is to land where you see Dylan there. Sam pretty much had the idea that he had to sink that shot. He didn't really know how close Dylan was, but I knew that Dylan was right at circle's edge. And that is honestly one of the most routine and ridiculous birdies that I've ever seen
on
hole 7 blue to white. And any locals who are watching this right now are going to be just as amazed as I am, because that is just an unbelievably hard hole to even get yourself a putt on. And Dylan just easily taps in a 30-foot birdie putt on it. Get himself back to only being 1 down. So that was kind of a little bit of a momentum swing right there. Dylan was struggling a little bit at the beginning and just absolutely drops a dime on one of the hardest holes on the course. So getting a little bit competitive here. Sam's only up 1 heading into hole 8. Here at hole 8, you have 2 different routes that you can take. You can go right side like you see Dylan go here. It's a little more safe. Or you can go left side which is a lot more risky because on this hole you're pretty much throwing from an island and you have to get over the rock wall or else you have to re-tee for 3 in your OB. So this left side is a lot tighter, but it's a lot more direct to the basket. And Sam actually hit that line so well, but just caught a little bit of cabbage up top that slowed him down. And Dylan was playing a little bit more safe there. I don't think he really wanted to, you know, come in contact with any of those trees or, you know, have any sort of chance of going OB. So here's Dylan for his 2, kind of up on the hill, throwing, I think, his zone on a nice forehand Annie. Checks up there right next to that rock in that little muddy area. And here's Sam, probably from about 70 feet. This is for his 2. He already just saw Dylan lay it up, so he can pretty much give this a full run. Which he does, and I'm pretty sure he just barely tickled one of those front chains, and that would have been a really cool putt to see drop. And this little practice area down here near this basket is just so muddy and gross. Like, you can see Dylan just trying to figure out where to even walk. Like, this whole ground area right here is just so disgusting. But that's going to push them with 3s, and Sam is still 1 up heading into hole 9. Hole 9 is 270 feet. It's a little bit of a shorty. It's kind of at like our 1 o'clock. And for these guys, Dylan's going to throw a nice little forehand, as you see. It's got snuck right through those trees, was maybe slightly early. This is a great forehand shot for a righty or a great, you know, backhand shot for a lefty. And anyone who's a pro player is pretty much counting on this hole to give yourself a putt and to take a birdie stroke. So to see both of them hit their lines there is, you know, no surprise. Here's Dylan lining one up from about 20 feet, maybe 18 feet. Taps her in. And Sam was just a little bit closer, probably, you know, 5-10 feet. Nice little tap in. So there's a birdie frame, little star frame. Good push. Heading into the back 9. Sam is 1 up. And these guys were cruising, honestly. We played this round. I didn't even play, but we played this round in like an hour and 15 minutes. Nobody was out there, and they were just throwing dimes, dropping birdies in, you know, not really messing up their shots, taking no bogeys. And so we were really just cruising along with a great pace out here. Hole 10, 310 feet, really tough wooded shot with a lot of, you know, lines that you can take. Dylan opts for that turnover forehand shot, and I think Sam's going to try to replicate that with the lefty shot. Maybe turns it a little too much, or maybe threw a slightly too neutral of a disc, and it kind of just held and rode into the ground. Whereas I think Dylan threw his FD3, and as it got around the corner, it started to flex back out and go straight. Sam, once again, from, you know, 60 feet, just barely drawing metal with a nice putt attempt. And here we got Dylan, and this is going to be to tie the match. So Sam was 1 up heading into this hole, and Dylan sees a little bit of a chain that he wants to adjust there. And it's probably about a 20-foot putt just behind the basket, just in front of that OB wall, so he didn't skip over the wall, and just snuck it in. And you can hear Dylan, he goes, "That's why I fixed that chain," because right where he fixed that chain is actually where his putt went in. So after that birdie, they are all square heading into hole 11. And I'm kind of up here at the apex of the gap, and I'm watching the disc come in, and Dylan threw that great. And he's a little bit long there, but he avoided all trees and just gave himself a wide open putt from the backside of the green. This hole is really tough for a lefty shot, and the glare of the sun on my camera screen, I actually lost the disc mid-flight right there. You can see I wasn't really panning with it. And then I heard it hit either like a rock, or I think it might have hit the old alternate pin position. And you could actually see where his foot is. He must have smacked that little white cap of that pin, because I did hear a loud little bang. And there is his putt to try to seal a birdie and hopefully push the hole, because he's assuming that Dylan's just going to hit this putt, which he does. So Dylan takes a point there, and that is 3 birdies in a row for Dylan. He got 9, 10, 11. He did miss 8, which was that muddy green, but he got 7, which is that long 545-foot hole. So in the past 5 holes, Dylan has 4 birdies, so he's definitely heating up here. Hole 12. Long straight shot, 420 feet. That gap that you have to hit is about 180 feet off the hole, and Dylan threw an absolute dime there. He did block the entire shot, so I didn't actually see the disc flying in the air, but just based off his body language, it looked like a great shot. Here's Sam trying to match the shot and just leaves it a little bit early. I don't know if it came out of his hand early or maybe it was the wrong disc selection, but it actually fought through that jail pretty well. I've hyzered out into that jail many times, and a lot of the time you hit a lot earlier and you finish with way more trees in your way. He actually has a slight line at the basket there, and he pretty much just needed to run that shot. Dylan threw an absolute dime and put himself to about 10 feet, and Sam needed to sink that. So Dylan is just absolutely on a tear right now. That's 5 birdies in the last 6 holes on a layout that's really not that shreddable. Hole 13, 310 feet here. Most people take the traditional up the middle route, but Dylan's going MD3 here on the right side. And if he hit any of those trees and fell, you're OB. So the right side has a ton of risk reward, but it's a pretty basic hyzer shot. Yeah. I personally go up the middle like you see Sam doing here, because I never really want to have the risk of going OB. But Dylan threw a great shot there, putting the pressure on Sam. And kind of the same thing that you saw in hole 10. The disc just really didn't want to stay in the air and fly, so left himself about, I don't know, 80 or 90 feet short. Little downhill putt here. Dylan is in circle 1, so Sam has to give this everything he's got. And leaves it just a little bit short. Okay, and there's Dylan just tapping in another bird. 3 up. 5 birdies in the last 6 holes, just not letting anything happen. Here's 14, little 245-foot shot. Dylan catches a little bit of cabbage, hits that big tree, and kind of similar to hole 8, you actually do have to make it over that rock wall that you can see, or else you're OB. And so Dylan, I'm pretty sure, landed OB there, really opening the door up here for Sam. Blocks the shot a little bit, but you could see before he blocked it, it did start to turn over a bit, and that was just the absolute prime shot. Throw something nice and straight, little flippy, let it flip over up into the hill. And Dylan actually picked up his shot. He did go OB, so he would have been throwing for 3 from the rock wall. Kind of conceded the point. Sam hit his 2-putt anyways and took the point. Hole 15, 240 feet. Pretty straightforward, dogleg to the right. There's really just that one tree in the middle that you want to beat. You either want to decide to go around it with something a little more overstable, or to the right of it with something a little more straight. And both of them elect to go around it. Dylan's probably throwing his FD3 there. Pretty much parks it. This is a little bit of a shorter hole. 14 and 15 are pretty good birdie opportunities because they're both in that mid 200 feet range. A little bit of technicality to the tee shot, but nothing too crazy. And this right here is a big, big putt for Sam. Probably circle's edge. You know, he's down 2, and there isn't much time left. He knows if he misses that, then that's pretty much, you know, the ball game at that point. So the veteran that he is, he just sticks it dead center pole. He wasn't going to miss that shot. 2 birdies, nice little push, heading into 16. We got 3 holes left. This tee shot is pretty tricky on 16. The hill kind of plays up, and then the ceiling kind of comes down, so you really have to hit this tight little window at about shoulder level, maybe even head level. And you see Sam just leave it a tiny bit nose up, and it clips that branch, which does kind of redirect it a little bit, but he did not seem too happy about it. I think he knew that the disc was going to flip on its own anyways. Here's Dylan just ripping on an MD3, just throwing an absolutely perfect shot up the middle of the fairway there. And I think he did clip that fat MD3 tree at the end, but yeah, that was just such a clean shot with a nice little mid-range driver. And these two guys are just absolutely playing great golf today. I know it's tough sometimes on camera to really gauge how well someone's playing, but this is a 960 rated par, just to shoot a 54 on this layout, and both of these guys are multiple strokes under par. Dylan strung together like, you know, 5 or 6 birdies in the last couple holes, and these guys are just really putting on a great show. You know, not too many bogeys at all. Everyone's hitting their lines, so just some high-level local competition between these two. Good little 3-putt there for Sam. He did run his putt from about, 100 feet out just to try to put some pressure on Dylan there. Still hit his comebacker, and Dylan tapped in from, 12, 15 feet, and they're heading into hole 17. Dylan is 2 up with 2 to go. This is called Dormy, so if Sam doesn't win out, then he's pretty much done. Even if they push this hole, that's all she wrote. Hole 17 here at Borderland is honestly the signature hole in my opinion. Just look at how beautiful that gap is, how beautiful the back of the mansion is. On a day like today when the sun's coming down, you got foliage, popping all over the place. You just cannot beat this view from back here. It is so picturesque. That was a good shot from Sam. Nice little lefty drive. This shot does actually set up pretty well for a lefty. And Dylan's forehand came out pretty high there. And there's a ton of trees on the right side. And you're going to hear Sam, I cut it out, but he said, the only chance I have here is if you get 2 meters. So he was hoping, at Borderland we have the 2 meter rule just because there's so much trees. He was hoping Dylan was stuck up in a tree, but I was so surprised. Dylan pinned that shot. Look at that. He's like 3 feet from the pin. I've forehanded this hole almost every single time that I play it, and the height that Dylan's forehand just came out with is just so crazy. So I can't even believe that he still pushed forward enough to give himself a putt. And yeah, Sam's upshot just smacked me in the leg right there.
Nice win, dude. Great shooting.
And so Dylan advances to the finals, and I'm pretty sure they're playing the finals at Maple Golds, and he is going to be playing against Rivas Mark-Hans Craig, who you've seen on the channel before. He runs a ton of local tournaments. He's big in the local scene. So good luck, Dylan. Good luck, Rivas, in the finals, and I hope you guys enjoyed this watch. Take it easy.